When we launched CaseWare IDEA in September 2020, we set very ambitious goals for ourselves. And that was to deliver on our mission where data analytics becomes part of every audit that we provide. I welcome you on this journey with us. CaseWare IDEA forms part of the assurance solutions in the CaseWare ecosystem, and it does allow us to give you experiences that we haven't yet offered to you before. It also allows us to create a brand new approach to when we create our assurance engagements, saving you time and allowing you to get much more done than ever before. So with the CaseWare ecosystem in mind, we are already working on a few more iterations to provide you with more integration between your various accounting packages, our probe audit template, and then also later our audit international template. Now imagine you've just received your Pastel partner file. What would you do today? Export the TB, maybe the GL, some other reports, and get that into your spreadsheet solution ready for you to analyze. You would then most probably start to complete your engagement file, start selecting all the samples from all the accounts, first your material when we think about probe, then your significant, any unusual transaction, and then if the ROM requires it, your additional samples. And if you think about how long this could take you, I think from my experience, it could take anything from a day on a smaller engagement or up to a week and maybe more if it is larger engagements that we need to work with. Now imagine doing this work in a few hours. And by using IDEA, we can make this a reality, which I will show you a little bit later. So when we look at the IDEA process, the first step in the process is to import our data. And within IDEA, you can import from almost any source. Then we need to do our analysis, including your samples, stratifying, gap detection, any advanced analytics. And you can also use Python scripting to come up with any type of tests that you can think about. We then want to review those results by making use of various reports, visualizations that IDEA allows you to do, and you can then report on those findings. Now let's put that idea into or process into practice. What we've done today is we've incorporated a Pastel partner import, which will be a one-click import into CaseWare IDEA. When you are in CaseWare IDEA, we have guided analytics together with Smart Analyzer, and I will show you how we've tagged those procedures already. And then with the Probe Audit Premium Plus methodology, you can incorporate IDEA into the engagement and have IDEA select those samples for you and bring the results back directly into working papers. Now let's start with the Pastel partner import and what you would do today. So the first step is creating a new working papers engagement file. I'm not going to go through the process of creating the file. I've already created the file. And now what we can do is I can select I want to import from an accounting package. I've already selected Pastel partner with the version and where the file is saved. Because I'm importing into working papers, I'm not going to do the general ledger detail. We do have feedback that some of you don't want to include the general ledger detail in your file, and that is perfectly fine. But I want to bring in the trial balance to then go and analyze and map so that my financials as well as working papers will be ready. And I'll select the current year, my customer and supplier control account, click on OK. So what's happening now is working papers is importing my trial balance from my file directly into working papers. So that was quite quick. And then what we need to do is go to our mapping. So as you know, as part of the import process, we need to map our working papers into CaseWare so that we know where those accounts need to go. So I'll go and assign the mappings. So what I want to demo to you today is property, plant and equipment. And to save us a bit of time, I'm just going to map everything into property, plant and equipment. Now this, you'll normally go ahead and map according to how the client would need the mapping to be done. But because I'm just demoing to you property, plant and equipment today, I'll just put all the balances there so that you can actually go and see the results. So if we open the trial balance, we can now see that the information is imported and ready for me to work with my working papers engagement file. Because I've also imported from an accounting package directly, my engagement properties will be updated with the relevant names and reporting dates. So I don't even need to worry about those. Then what I'll do is create a new IDEA project. So I've already created a blank project, called it IDEA Demo. And what you will see is there's a Pastel Partner beta button in terms of the automated imports. Now we started with Pastel Partner because when we did our survey, the feedback was that most of you have clients on Pastel Partner, and this is the first accounting package that you would want us to look at. It's currently in a beta process. We are busy testing it out with many of our clients, and if you want to get involved, you're welcome to get in contact with myself or your account manager, and we can get a demo license to you for you to go and test the Pastel Partner beta import. While we are putting it in beta, we are going to do it for a much more longer process than what we do normally, beta our products. And the reason for that is being your client's accounting data, being their data, you can't necessarily share that with us. So we have created a few test files that we can test and work with, but we don't have a lot of live data, and we understand why you can't share that with us, but that's why we're making the beta available for a much longer period so that we enable you to go and work with it on your files and then give us feedback if there is anything not working on a specific client engagement. Remember, there's so many ways that Pastel Partner can be set up. Clients can use it in different ways. They can use the inventory in many different ways. They can use branches. There's Forex. We try to test for all of those scenarios, but there are many scenarios out there that can be used. Also, I want to ask you if you do have any specific accounting packages that is used within your firm a lot that you want us to focus on next, please put them in the comments or in the chat today. And then we can focus on those next items. So the ones that get voted with the highest priority, we will focus on next. We already have a list, but please put it in your comments and I can then take a look at which ones you would prefer us to look at next. Okay, so I'm going to click on the Pastel Partner beta button. You will see that the screen comes up. I need to browse to where my Pastel file is located, and I will go into my folder where the Pastel file is and click on OK. Then click on Run. And what's going to happen now is IDEA will go into that Pastel file and analyze the data for me, bring in all the raw data from the different databases within Pastel, and also format them in a way that can be processed easily by itself. So we can see the process takes around 30 seconds, and now I have my information within the file. So there's my general ledger, and as I said, we're focusing on property, plant and equipment. I can see my information in the file already. So my account number, reference number, the comments, amounts, your entry type that was used, journal entry. But also if you wanted to do some specific tests on this file, the raw data is there. So there's your ledger master, your ledger transactions, any categories, as well as the users within the file with their unique data and IDs. Passwords will obviously be obscured because we can't give that information to you. So if we look at the general ledger, we can then go ahead and tag this for our Smart Analyzer tests. Smart Analyzer is almost like an app store for IDEA, and within Smart Analyzer, there is a marketplace where different apps is available for you. So if you're working within the mining industry, finance, banking industry, there are different apps available for you that you can purchase that contains guided analytics specifically for that industry. The app we are going to look at today is the Smart Analyzer Financial Statements app, or financial app. So there's the financial app. It contains a workflow already predefined for you. You can create a data request if you wanted to send the data out or the request out in a specific format. With Pastel, we don't have to do that because we've already imported the test. You then need to go and tag those procedures. And what we've done already is we've included the tags for you the way that you need them to be within the Pastel import. So all we need to do is we need to open the tag file, and it is saved on in our CaseWare folder. So I'll go and select my CaseWare folder, my Smart Analyzer tags. Because I've got the general ledger open, you'll have the accounts payable, receivable, general ledger, and inventory tags already tagged for you. I can open general ledger, and you can see that the fields is assigned for me. The fields that I need to be assigned for me to go and do the general ledger tests. I can then go ahead and select and run my Smart Analyzer test because it's now tagged and the tags has been applied. All of the procedures with a play button next to them have a ready status. So it means that those procedures can be executed already, and I don't need to do anything in addition to have these procedures executed. You also see that there's an optional and a required input. Now, although we've tagged these procedures for you, some procedures still requires an input. So for example, journal entries with specific comments. That's not something that we can tag up front for you. You need to click on the required and you need to say, what comment do you want to search for? Maybe a related party, maybe reversal or loan, whatever the comment is that you want to search for, you can type in the value and then you can go ahead and put that response in. So we can then go ahead and select the procedures that we want to execute. So I'm going to say I want to test all the out of balance journal entries, all the duplicate, maybe any missing journal entries, journals entries posted on weekends. And again, the weekends have an optional. You can say when is a weekend for your client. Maybe it's a hairdresser. They work on Saturdays, Sundays, but they're closed on Mondays. You can select that. And then there's specific dates, specific times. I'm looking at the general ledger test. I'm going to select those three and then click on run. So when I click on run, I can see that it's busy running. The progress will be indicated for me and those tests will execute. So this is how IDEA, together with the Smart Analyzer Fin app works, where we provide you with guided analytics, especially on the probe and Pastel import. So that information is then ready for you to work with. And the test can already execute. And we can then go, after we have completed those tests, I can close my test and I can click on the results and reporting. And now I can see that those tests have already been executed, 0 records with out of balance journal entries, 0 missing journal entries, but there's a duplicate journal entry and there's 48 of them. So I can click on that and it will then give me the actual results. Where's those 48 journal entries? So there I can see all of these have entry 1. They have the similar amounts, similar descriptions, similar accounts. You can then go and analyze that information. That can then also be exported into working papers if you need to. Okay, now let's go and look at how IDEA then integrates with my probe methodology. So this was the Smart Analyzer part, where you can do ad hoc procedures with guided analytics. You can also go ahead and do some more work on the general ledger if you wanted to, like making use of the analysis and macros. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into probe and go complete some of the work within my probe file, and then take you through the process of how IDEA will work together with my probe methodology. Now, we are still in the development phase of this specific functionality, and we will release that to you as part of beta later in April, so be on the lookout for those emails. But in essence, how it will work is it will allow you to make a choice of whether you want to incorporate IDEA into the audit file, and then there will be a button for you to browse to the IDEA project. So you can then say, this IDEA project relates to this specific engagement file. So CS IDEA Demo 2 is related to CS IDEA Demo 2. Those two engagement files are related. You will then go ahead and complete the probe methodology. So your engagement evaluation, select your materiality amounts, complete 1050, 1051 as part of the audit. And then you would have this button, CaseWare Working Papers to IDEA. What this is doing right now, it is exporting my working papers information, all the information that we might need as part of an analytics solution to go and analyze the information as part of the analytics tool and to make sure my methodology are incorporated. So that takes around 10 seconds. And if I just open IDEA at this point, what you will see is that IDEA now contains your CaseWare Working Papers information from the engagement file that I just worked with. So we have now exported into IDEA not only the Pastel information, but we have our accounts. Because if I want to execute some procedures on property, plant and equipment, I need to know from the general ledger where it is mapped within working papers. And there I can see, remember I mapped all of them to property, plant and equipment, but I can see my mapping number, my grouping number. So when I say I want to execute a certain test, it will know that I'm dealing with property, plant and equipment. So select all material additions to property, plant and equipment. It will know, go and search for additions in all of the accounts mapped to property, plant and equipment. And then we've also included your materiality amount. So in 1060, you would have selected your materiality, your significant amounts, your performance materiality, as well as your specific materiality. And we also indicate the financial year. So that information will come from probe into working papers. So that when we make the decision in 1220 and say, I want to select required procedures, then we'll only select all material amounts for you as part of the sample. If you say I want to do material and or required and extended, we will select your all the amounts above materiality and any significant amounts. And if you then select you want to do a sample, we'll select a sample from the rest. We then also have a new concept, and as auditors, this might, the words used might be new or different. So please don't get a fright if I call something fuzzy matching. I know fuzzy doesn't always fit well with us, and we don't always relate to the word fuzzy if I say something fuzzy matched, but it's really not something to be scared or worried about. So what we do is we define certain words for you within the probe methodology that we expect to be seen within the accounts. So if we think about acquisitions, I'll use that as an example. Within the probe methodology and the property, plant and equipment work program, there will be a procedure that says, select all material acquisitions and perform the following. Now, your client, when they do their processing, would not necessarily use the word acquisition. They might use the word addition, or add, or purchase, or buy. So there's many words that they can use, and we'll give you the functionality to actually go in probe and document what their word is when they go and document an acquisition or an addition to property, plant and equipment. Might even be new. So what we do then is we make a list of all of that words that you've documented in probe, and we will tell IDEA that if you find this word within the comments or accounts, then go and match and fuzzy match that to the word acquisitions. And why we call it a fuzzy match is because what if the client made a spelling mistake? We're not just going to search for acquisition. There might be acquisition, there might be acquisitions, there might be additions or audit, and then we want to make sure that we select the right amounts. So we include that as part of the words, and we will fuzzy match. So if there's a word that matches around 80% of the words that you've documented within the comments or account descriptions, we will include that as part of the tests and consider that as part of, let's say, so if they said acquisitions, we'll include that as part of a consideration for acquisition. So you don't have to go and worry about documenting every single word that they might be using. We will use the fuzzy match to go and analyze that for you and match with the words. Okay, so after we've done the fuzzy match, what we need to do then is we now need to tell Probe and IDEA which tests we want to execute. So at this point, we have one button and we're executing all of the tests at once, and we're looking at PPE in this example. But when we go forward, you will have the option to execute it on sections. So you can either run it on the whole file before you start the audit, or you can say maybe there was a revision to your materiality or your specific materiality for PPE, and you want to rerun the tests just for property, plant and equipment. You will be able to do that. So I'm going to head and click on the Execute IDEA button. So what's happening now is those tests are now being executed in IDEA, and we are running through the IDEA process, going through that Pastel partner information and running through all the words that you've documented in Probe, doing the fuzzy matching for you, having a look at which procedures are within the Pastel partner database, matching those journals up together, because when we look at a transaction, we want to look at the whole transaction, and we are analyzing that for you. Now, in our scenario, this takes around a minute for property, plant and equipment, and the expectation is that it will take on a medium-sized client around a minute per section when we execute on these procedures. But what we're doing is we're going and selecting all of these samples for you. Any materials, so I've selected all, so I will get my material disposals or acquisitions, my significant, as well as a sample within those additions. So we can see the IDEA process is busy running, it's executing on those, it's creating the different databases for me. And what's also nice about this is it's saving the history as it's going along. So as part of data analytics, you need to have this track, and you can always have the audit trail of exactly what did we do. How did we do the fuzzy match? Why is something in the acquisitions database? Why is something in the materials database? And you can go and view that history and include that as part of your export into working papers if you wanted to. So that when it has to be re-performed, you don't have to worry about how was it actually performed. That steps is documented for you. And also, when you get to the end, there would be an expectation that although we've ran the test for you, you still need to do a quick review of the results to actually make sure, do you agree with this result? And did we not miss anything? Because right at the end, if there were transactions that were not executed or that was not selected, we will give you those in a separate results. So what we can see now is IDEA is almost done with the process, and it is now bringing over that information into my working papers file. So that by the time we are done with this, not only will the test have executed within CaseWare IDEA, but it will also put that information back into my working papers file so that it is ready for me to use. Now, at this point, we've transferred all of the databases for you into your working papers file. And as part of the beta process, we will work with you to see what results do you want to see within the working papers file. So there we can see the IDEA tests coming in, and we have, at this point, added them for you in the IDEA test results folder, which wasn't there previously. Now let's look at, for example, acquisitions. So I said we will look at acquisitions. So I'm going to open the acquisitions IDEA 2 database, and because the two are now linked and they're working together, when I open this database within working papers, it will open it into my information that I have within IDEA. So you can see I wasn't lying to you before when I said I can take your sampling game from a few or from hours, because how long would it have taken you to go into like a spreadsheet solution and filter for any acquisitions, additions, new items, the various amounts, and put this in this format. Here I can see my database within a few minutes, and I can see all the acquisitions in the file, and I can also see the transaction, like what was debit, what was credit, part of which entry type, the journal entry number, the who posted it, as well as where it is even mapped, my debit and credit, and as part of which section. It also tells me, as part of the test result, which word, where did we fuzzy match? So this was matched with the word acquisition. And we can see why, because it says material acquisition. So there we can see it was documented as part of my acquisitions, and that's why it's pulled through in my acquisitions database. If I go back to working papers, I can see my depreciation. So let's say I want to see all my depreciation entries. There I can see depreciation, again with all the relevant information. And if I go back to my working papers file, there's also all the information on how we've appended the transactions, your results rows, how it was joined, and then very important, your completeness testing. So not only do we test the data for you and bring it into working papers, but we also make sure that your trial balance you have within working papers and the trial balance together with the general ledger details we have within IDEA are complete. So if I open the TB and GL completeness, I can quickly scroll to the right and see any differences. Now we are expecting one difference. So there I can see there is actually a difference within my engagement. And you can then go and follow up on why is the TB that I've imported in working papers different to the T or general ledger that I've imported in IDEA. Making sure that my data is always aligned between the two. So you can then go and follow up on that specific difference. So there's all my results as well within my engagement file. What we've also done is if I, for example, open the final results, you will see that it shows all the information that I have within my general ledger. And that's because we want to show you the full transaction in the full batch. And all of this was posted as part of journal entry number 1. Now, of course, you can look at the different views and you can see if you only want to see your acquisitions and the ones that contains that word, you can do that. But if you want to see the whole transaction that this item formed part of, you can also do that. Then any databases that is blank, we will not pull into working papers files. So you don't have to worry about any of that information coming through, which means that there was no words that were mapped to the second or third word within acquisitions. So when we look at those key mappings, we'll see that nothing linked to that. We also have a general ledger summary by account that we will provide to you. So it's almost like a mini TV, but you can then drill down because I can see that there are 4 amounts or 8 transactions for depreciation, I can click on the 8 and it will show me those 8 transactions, which I can then say where do they need to go to. And any repairs and maintenance, what did go into repairs and maintenance part of PPE. There I can see there was a material journal. Obviously the comments will be different because this is our test sample that we've done, but you will see now there's my journal going into repairs and maintenance account number. And where did it come from? Where is it mapped? And all that information is readily available to you. I mentioned already that after you have done the analysis into IDEA and there are any changes within working papers, you can then go and extract that information again. So we can rerun the IDEA test multiple times and will then replace the information with IDEA. You can also see that we thought about where is the data saved. So we're not bringing in the actual accounting and general ledger detail into your working papers files. We are pulling in the results so that you can, when you do a cleanup of the file, remove this information because you might not necessarily want to keep that as part of your lockdown file. It is also in the IDEA format. So when you're working with the information, you can open it. So if I now want to start doing my tests, I've opened my acquisitions. I want to start doing my tests. I can export this if I needed to. I can also go and send it by email. So I can send a PDF to my client and say, these are the invoices or these are the expenses that I want to test. So very quickly getting those results out and being able to ask for that if it is a sample that you need to get some documentation back. And then once you're done with the test, you can go and add your different columns. You can add your ticks within IDEA. And when you're happy with your working paper, you can publish it to PDF back into CaseWare, and then you can go and add it as part of your working papers evidence. Otherwise, what you could also do is you can save this information together with your working paper file if you are not concerned with having the working papers and the general ledger accounting information within the working paper file. So many options available to you for you to have it ready and available. For those of you with cloud, we do have the cloud share availability, which is similar to SmartSync, but not the same. It allows you to back up this set of accounting records and general ledger details to your client's entity on cloud. We do have one limitation on that at this point, where it does not yet work with cloud instances where two-factor authentication is enabled. But in the next few months, we will have that eliminated and you'll be able to sync your information already to the cloud. So that will enable everyone within the team. Not everyone has to do this work separately. One person can do the work, click on the cloud share button, sync the information to cloud, and everyone else can go and download it so that when they create their SmartSync copy, so their child copy, it will have this database in already, and they can sync the IDEA information on the other side as well, so that when they open and they, for example, want to look at your duplicate entries or they want to look at your key mappings, they can do that and work with you on the IDEA database. So that brings us to the end of the IDEA demo. And I hope that you've seen that IDEA really allows you to do a very quick import, especially from now what we've done with Pastel. And we will look at the comments. I'll look at all the information that you provide to us on the next solutions that you give. It will also allow for very quick testing. You can see a minute per section running through the whole database and giving you the information. I know the database that I demoed to you today is quite small, but we have tested it with quite large databases already, with a few thousand million transactions, and it does work and it is quite quick. We also have guided analytics as part of your smart analyzer, and then we also have the IDEA tab and lab with the exceptional exceptions where you can do pandas profiling if you want. Any other fuzzy joins? Remember, a fuzzy join can also be very nice when searching for a related party or a specific address within the file. And then any other deeper analysis that you want to do, if you want to go and research some Python scripts and incorporate that into your IDEA project, you can do that. Until we meet again, be safe and goodbye.